you know, one of the biggest things as well. So see, Thomas, if you pointed out, right, even in like the biggest matches, like obviously you've worked with Liverpool, right? You've worked with Jurgen, right? Throwing quality. What would you say? The throwing quality. The fact that you tested it at kind of Sunday league level, right? So at an amateur level, kind of starting off, kind of to test it. How did you kind of spot this? Did you just think that was a good place to start? But I know you were saying earlier you weren't sure if it was really going to work, or when did you kind of know, okay, there's some substance to this?
I'll say, first of all, the first 3 years, like from 2004 to 2007, it was only the long throw in and how to improve the players. And again, it's been successful, still is, right, improving most players with 5 to 15 meters, only with technical improvement. But you know, in 2007, I was sending up in a club called Silkeborg in the Danish Superliga, and I was hired by a head coach who was really into set pieces, and it was a big success. But when I came into the club, they were like really at the bottom of the league. And then they changed the head coach to another coach who wouldn't really use set pieces as a weapon. So I was still paid and by the club, but I was really frustrated because even though I trained the players, they're not using it. So one day I was just sitting and looking at a game, and I should only analyze the long throw-ins, but they didn't use it, so nothing to analyze. And then suddenly that team in the Danish Superliga, Silkeborg, had a throw-in in the middle of the pitch, and they lost the ball. And then the next one, and the next one again, and I thought, hey, I only thought it was in youth football and amateur football, Sunday league football, that they were so bad at the throw-ins. And then I realized there was no difference between throw-ins in the Premier League, Champions League, and Sunday league football, and that was scary. That's where I started there developing my long, fast, and clever throw-in philosophy, and to boil it down to a small thing, then it's like creating space all around the pitch so you can keep possession, create chances to score goals after throw-in situations. So in the first, it was the only long throw-in, but I realized there was like a missing link in football. So still, of course, Liverpool has improved a lot. My teams improve a lot. A few teams have been a little bit better because I see all the teams when I analyze the games. But still, a lot of teams are playing like Sunday league footballers when they have a throw-in. Just like no movement by the players, just a lot of long balls down the line. But if you do that, throw small boxes, you'll have a duel. And I normally call it a 50-50, but I should rather call it a 30-70 or 40-60 because it's a lot bigger risk to lose the ball because you'll often lose the duel, and if you flick it on, it'll often be to the opponent's central defenders. So you know,
absolutely.
There's a lot of margin for improvement. So until I'm publishing my book about throw-ins, I'll of course help all my teams. But when I'm publishing that book, it'll change the football world for sure.
Absolutely, no, and I think football's about innovation, 100%. So you think you were the first kind of throwing coach where you've kind of tried? Have you met any other throwing coaches or came across people who are kind of in this space?
No, I'll say that I met no throwing coaches. Of course, there are some assistant coaches who get inspired by me, and there are also some set piece coaches who get inspired by me. But it's really important for me to say that I'm not a set piece coach. And what I'm when I'm looking at some also set piece coaches or assistant coaches, they think that I'm working like in American football where I'm setting up a playbook. You do this, and this. No, I'm learning the players throwing intelligence, like the way Barcelona learned their players to play tiki-taka. It was not like Messi run there, Xavi run there, and Iniesta run there, then Messi run there. No, they learned tiki-taka by doing all the small things, raising the tiki-taka intelligence. It's the same thing I do with my throwing coaching. I'm building it up basic with throwing longer, more precise, basic space creation, a lot of different tools, specific throwing tools on top of that, tools in the 3 different zones. And then on top of that, I'm using the individual throw-in superpowers. Different players have different strengths. And then the players are also using their own imagination and fantasy and creativity. So in theory, my teams have millions of options. So it's not like a playbook in American football. So often when I see assistant coaches, analysis people or something like that, set piece coaches are saying, hey, we're working like this. Of course, it's better than not like working, but often I'm thinking, hey, they're doing this in a totally different way if they really want to make their teams good at throwing. So yes, I'm the only throw-in coach in the world who are thinking about throw-ins every day, every hour.
That's quite a lot. So if you could identify though the key areas of a throw in your work aims to fix, what would you say that would be? What do you think it's going to fix within the game?
Oh, in the game, yeah. First of all, it'll fix the team so it's easy to keep possession, create chances, and score goals after throwing situations, and that's really, really important. The other thing it will help to fix is that I'll make football much more entertaining. Right now, we see a lot of no movements. We see a lot of balls just been throwing down in a small box, duels. No, that's not entertaining. What we really want to see is we have a throw-in under pressure, then we want to see innovative space creation. So we create that space so we can leash a counter attack or switch the play or play in the back room or something else. And that's really exciting because if you're comparing, just take a look at basketball. If you're a spectator of basketball, you say, hey, they did that, space creation to make that free 3-point shot. They scored, or perhaps they didn't score. But we, in basketball, as a spectator, we love the movements being created with that space creation. I want to have the same experience in football. It should be like that guy sitting in the sofa, and the friend is going outside to the to the kitchen to get a beer. And then there's a throw-in, and the guy in the sofa says, hey, come on in, there's a throw-in. I want to create that excitement because if people out there knew what I'm doing with my clubs, they'll just sit and wait for it. What are they going to do? What kind of solution? What tools do they use? So, of course, it's people don't know that now because they're lacking the knowledge, but that's also that kind of change I want to make in football to make the game even more entertaining.
And I think as well, cause sometimes I've always noticed that when I would take throw-ins when I was a player, and I find players are just, you know what I mean? There's no real, do you know what I mean? Unless there's a goal, you're trying to get the ball back into play. You know what I mean? That's more the attitude rather than, you know what I mean? It's not really seen as something. Oh, this is a critical. It's just the ball's went out of play. I need to get it back into play. Not like let's get into shape. Let's make sure you're ready to receive the ball and then distribute. Or if you're going to throw a ball and then somebody's going to let it on, it's going to go into a channel and you're going to get into that space and then get the ball in the box. So I think that's but I see what you mean. I can see from even the way you're speaking what you would be expecting of the teams that you coach. So let's see this. So when you were working with Jurgen, and you're working with Jurgen, you're working with Eriksson at Ajax, you're working with, two clubs have done quite well in Champions League the last couple of years. What would you say their attitude is to obviously hiring you and bringing you in, and what kind of vibe did you get from them?
Oh, it's just fantastic. Let's just take Jurgen Klopp. I've been given an open role in Liverpool FC. I could do whatever I want. Of course, I listen to feedback. Of course, I do that. It's not like I know it all, but I can do everything I want to do in training because Jurgen Klopp trusts that I know what to do because I do my analysis. He trusts that I know more than him, and that's the reason why he called me. And I think that's also like a sign of a great leader. That as a great leader, it's not you being the best, and you know it all. It's about getting people in who have a lot of knowledge who can help your company or your team like this. So I think in general people are open-minded in Liverpool FC. It's not only like certain areas who help each other. It's across areas. in the club who were helping each other. So, I have a free role in Liverpool FC, and also I had the same in Ajax too, because people, I think great leaders who are innovative and great companies who are really like going up, they know that you have to trust people, and you also have to let people use their knowledge, imagination, their fantasy to help. Because if Jurgen Klopp has said to me, okay, we did bad with the throw-ins before you came, if you could do almost the same as like I did myself with the team, it wouldn't have been better. So people are like giving me 100% trust, and that's the way it is, in all teams where I'm coming. So all in all, you can say that it's also often innovative teams who are hiring me, or said in another way, people who are into data, into bringing alternative people in. The teams where they only have like one head coach, one assistant coach, goalkeeper coach, then a doctor, then a physiotherapist, nothing else. We know what we should do. We do the same things like we did 10, 15 years ago. Of course, it can be okay, successful team, but the teams who really like improving, they all they have an innovative approach. So that's the way I feel. But also from the players, it's all about giving them the why. I'm telling the players, hey, did you know that there are 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match? Most teams have possession under 50% of the occasions when they have a throw-in under pressure. If you had the same with your feet, you'll only be playing Sunday League football. So, when you hear these numbers and you're saying, hey, we can improve something. And especially when Liverpool, a team like Liverpool, were really bad at the throw-ins. So of course,
right.
I only met motivated players and coaches.
So were the players, would you say Liverpool and Ajax and all, obviously Genk and a lot of clubs in Belgian Pro League that you've kind of come across, would you say they have a different mindset now, even the players?
Yeah, I'll say, and I'll just say I was coaching Gent with T. It's a little bit confusing, but because you have Genk with K, and then you have Gent with T. I coach.
That's
Gent,
right. Yeah.
And you can say all the teams I've been coaching the last many years, they've either been champions, or like Gent, they've been number 2 in Belgium, also had success in Europe, winning Champions League, or if I've been working with teams from lower leagues. I think all my teams have been going up in the league above after I've been working with. So it's both, like, of course, my coaching is working and making a big difference. That's one thing. But it's also, like you say, because of the general approach in the clubs. We are looking at what are we good at? Let's continue to do that or make it even better. What are we bad at? Let's try to make that better, instead of just closing your eyes and think, hey, it will go away, because it won't go away. It won't go away. It's the same in companies, So I think it's both because of my coaching, but also the general innovative approach. So, and for me, and of course, if you have a team like Liverpool FC with a lot of money, and so you can pay for a lot of stuff. But for me, it's not only about economics. It's more about mindset, because even though you are U16 club somewhere in the world, or Sunday League football club who still want to win games, you can have an innovative approach. So it's not only about money, it's also about how do you look at things. And there are so much knowledge, you can find on the internet or with books, or you can have people in your society, local society, who can help you. And you don't have to be a football coach to be able to have a football team. I don't have 1 minute of football education. I came from another world, even though I've been playing football myself. So get help.
That's right.
You can get help from a doctor who's working at a hospital. You can get help from a daycare taker who are working with kids because they have some knowledge. You can get help from a professor at a university. You can get help from anyone. Of course, you can't get help, every minute of the day. But be open-minded and how can you improve? So, and I'll rather take 10 shots and then miss 7 and then hit 3 really good, then take no shots at all. So it's a little bit like Wayne Gretzky said, the hockey player many years ago. I think it was him who said first that about, I can't remember exactly, but he said a lot about missing some shots. So that's really important. So just be open-minded, get people in to help you.
And then that's a really good point. And so whenever team masters a specific in terms of throw-ins, because I know you're obviously going to be doing a course, which we'll hit on that. But what? Tell me this, Thomas. At what point did you consider yourself a specialist in like this area? What point would you say you started to realize that?
I consider myself as a specialist. All the first day I started training and trying to analyze and look at myself. You don't have to wait for people to call you a specialist. Right. Even though I had no clubs like the first 6 months because I have to find everything out, I considered myself as a specialist when I contacted my very first club in the fall 2004. And this is not about you have to call yourself specialist, but just because you have to feel important. It's about you have to think like a specialist. So when I started calling
right.
First I thought about, hey, what do you have to do to be a specialist? So I had to prepare myself, look at all angles and so. So when I contacted Viborg, the Danish Super League club in 2004, I said I was a throwing coach, and so you don't have to wait for people to give you credit before you can call yourself something. Of course, there are some titles who are protected. You can't call yourself a professor or a doctor because that's like a protected title. But all in all, you can say that I'm a that and that and that specialist, or I'm really passionate for this and this and this, or an expert in this and this and this. So it's all about mindset. So right. because of course, if one thing is the signal you're sending to other people, but it's more importantly is the signal you're sending to yourself. And if you're sending a signal to yourself, I am a specialist, I am an expert, then you have to do something about it. So I know there are some people now also online, social media, who are calling themselves more than they are, and sometimes it's
right. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but I'll just say if you follow through and do the proper work behind it, you don't have to wait for people to give you the green lights.
Like for people to give you validation, pretty much. And I think that's the way we live in social media. Even when you see people consuming content and they're wanting you to remember. I mean, I was listening to I think it was Michael Jordan's personal trainer, Tim Grover, and I was listening to him, and he was even saying the same thing. You know what I mean? Like he was saying, when I train my athletes, it's a dictatorship. Show up, shut up, and listen, and do what I tell you to do. You know what I mean? So great guy to definitely check out. For sure. So obviously, so how did you come to work at FC Mitdjylland? Give us kind of how that kind of began and what that process kind of looks like.
Oh, it was already in the 2005-06 season. I think it was after my success in Viborg. Even though there was Super League club in Denmark, they were not so good at FC Mitdjylland. Of course, when you see a guy having success in one club, a lot of people think, hey, could it work in our club too? So it worked in Mitdjylland in the 5-6 season. I think I was in Mitdjylland again in the 8-9 season. So, and then I think it was from 11-12 season, and then up till the 19-20 season, I was at Mitdjylland. Not as the only club, again, because I'm a freelance throwing coach. But we had 4 seasons from, I think it was from, 15, 16 to 18, 19 is that fourth season, I think so, where the club scored 35 goals on long throw-ins, so approximately 9 goals per season. In Mitdjylland, there's been most focus on the long throw-ins, and I'll say in most of my clubs we're not doing any long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal, but some clubs have it like this approach. So Mitdjylland has also for many years been innovative, putting other experts in. So I'm really happy that I had the chance to work in FC Mitdjylland. So, but again, I'm taking things from every club I'm coaching, and so you can just say that yeah, of course it's been good to work with one of the best teams. If I'm going to work with another or some other Danish teams in the future, I don't know. Of course, I'm pretty busy right now traveling the world. Yeah. So it's also about, like any other things, times and economy and so. But I really appreciate you know, all the different experiences I've had in the Danish Superliga clubs. And yeah, if you ask me as a kid that do you think you'll coach in the best league in Denmark, I would probably have said, are you crazy? I'll never do that. That's like impossible. But hey, now I'm coaching in the biggest clubs in the world. So so sometimes, you know, when you take some decisions in life and get deep into a subject that you're passionate for, things can happen. So,
but also as well, do you look at it, the fact that these people like Jurgen Klopp obviously got in touch with you, and he obviously saw so. But it's good when people are giving you encouragement for the stuff you're doing. They actually fully appreciate what it is you do. There's a real respect there as well. And I think it's great because obviously you're always going to have. I would say one of the things I always tell my daughter, she's trying to become an actress, right? My daughter, right? And when you're going to become an actor, obviously I did acting when I was younger. I grew up with like guys like Jamie Dornan, who's in 50 Shades of Grey. And one of the things I can tell you, to be an actor, you got to have a very thick skin, very thick, because you're competing with people and you're looking over your shoulder every day of your career, every day. And I also, one thing I said to my daughter, I said, not everybody is going to be for you. Because I think sometimes we want people to like us and accept us for who we are. And that's just not reality. That's just not how the real world works. But it's great when you meet those people and they are for you. Because they do recognize that you're very skilled at what you do and they call you a specialist. Maybe you don't call yourself, but they do, you know what I mean? So that's obviously very, very important. And I suppose going to a club like Liverpool, you're kind of responsible. So you can kind of take credit for the success and the trophies they won to say, you know what, I contributed to that. Do you know what I mean? And Stevie Nicol can stand there and he can have his opinion, but he was nothing to do with Liverpool's success. So that would be also a counter argument. You know what I mean? Yeah. So without being rude, obviously, without being rude or obnoxious, you know, or arrogant or anything like that. But so kind of, how much did FC Mitdjylland, how did they kind of help your success, would you say?
You can say, first of all, of course, I had some great years in the club and they improved a lot, and I think, when I've been with the club, they've been winning in 3 Danish championships in a short period. The first Danish championship for the club, so of course I'm really proud about that. You can say what also helped me personally was that it's easy to put on the numbers on the long throw-ins. So when I'm saying they scored 35 goals over 4 seasons, so approximately 9 goals per season on long throw-ins, a lot of other clubs are saying, hey, we like to have that too. That's crazy. So right. So it's been giving me a lot. And you know, of course you can, it means a lot that you have people and coaches and wrestlers who are giving you confidence. But I think especially if you're doing something innovative, then it's really important that you have confidence in yourself. And again, like we touched before, you don't necessarily, of course, it's good to be validated by other people, but it's more important that you're validated by yourself. So, you know, the first many years, people were laughing me. Most people were laughing at me all the time. Then I got the breakthrough at Liverpool when it was like all the world knew it then, and a lot of people laughed. I don't know how many, perhaps 80-90% of all people laughed. Also, a lot of Liverpool fans, what is this and so.
Right.
But then times have changed, you know. Then there was, for a period, then Liverpool fans were starting to like saying, hey, that was a fantastic thing that we had a throwing coach, and fantastic that Jurgen Klopp called them. And then it suddenly changed. Now other managers were interested, and now it had been coming to a point that's been like this for a year or a year and a half, that now the opponent's fans, they say, hey, why shouldn't we hire that throwing coach? So you know, times can change when you have new knowledge, and you can see, first of all, what it means for other teams, but also what it could mean for your team. So times have really changed. But I want to go back to it again. The most important person who has to validate you, it's yourself.
Absolutely.
Not about saying things that shouldn't you know, it's not true. But if you're digging down into the knowledge, where you can say, hey, it's really true what you are doing, and it can help people. If you're surrounding yourself with kind people, if you're supporting other people, if you're trying to develop every day, if you try to be open-minded, I think you create a mindset that makes it easy that people are laughing about you. Because if you're the first, if you're the guy or the girl who's going in front, then there will be a lot of people laughing about you.
Right.
And so again, you have the first to validate yourself. It's yourself. So
I think it's really interesting what you say when you say, kind of like what I was saying before, that you almost, not everybody's going to be for you. So when people are laughing and people are mocking, and I think in football, that's what makes football really tough, because people will get on your back. I mean, you even hear a player's been racially abused, which I obviously don't condone at all. I think that's despicable. But one of the things that I would say is that, I mean, I'm looking at the record here. So obviously, you obviously have been called up by Jurgen. So he obviously gives you a call. Now, and then, of course, obviously, you've worked with teams like Ajax, Gent, and Borussia Mönchengladbach, right? So if you look at this, and obviously working at Mitdjylland, but if you look at Liverpool, so they've rose from 45.5 possession from throw-ins under pressure to 68.4%, and this was in the first season. So the pass accuracy rose. Andy Robertson improved his range from 19 to 27 meters, and improved his throw-in in an area by 500 square meters. So when I look at that, I'm thinking, somebody that's laughing, do you not view the people that are laughing, they're more ignorant than anything?
Say can be in some way, but for me it's also important to like slice up the criticism. I'm working with a thing I call the good, the bad, and the ugly criticism. First of all, a good criticism. That's really important. One of the most important things we have in life is criticism. If we didn't have any criticism, we wouldn't improve. So I think you have to be open-minded to constructive criticism. So I learned a lot, as I said earlier, from players, from coaches, when they say, hey, couldn't we do it in this and this and this way? Or a security guy, or on the pitch, or a guy I meet on the street or something like that, or online like this, you're giving me a good question or something like this. So that's like a good and constructive criticism. We have to be open-minded for that. I also think we have to be open-minded for the thing I call bad criticism. And what is this? Let's just say there's a person who says to me or writes to me on social media, I think that throw-ins doesn't really matter in football. It's just a small thing. Why are you doing it all? Then I could be like really angry and saying, hey, you don't know anything about it. I could decide not to answer. But I could also decide to say, hey, did you actually know that there are 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match, and you're mostly teams of possession under 50% on the throw-ins under pressure. By giving some knowledge on like a bad criticism, sometimes people are saying, hey, I didn't actually know that. That was actually funny. By the way, I'm really working with physical training, and I've developed this thing where you can measure this and this and this. So sometimes if you're like opening up to things who looks like negative criticism, but giving them some knowledge, then it can actually be, first of all, a good relation, but it can also give you more knowledge that you would have been getting. So I think we don't have to count out bad criticism, because sometimes it's just because of lack of knowledge. And then there is the last thing I call ugly criticism. That's where people are criticizing you, in a really bad manner, saying really bad things about you. Or if you feel that people are only criticizing you to get famous themselves or get some likes or clicks or views.
Right.
If that's like over the line in my perspective, then I just try to brush it off. And for example, going back again to Andy Gray, like when in 2018, where they used, I don't know, a minute or two on live TV on 2 times, laughing at me and like, I don't, it's okay that people are laughing about me and my job. Sometimes I laugh about my own job because that's perhaps the weirdest job in the world. That's okay. You can do a lot of funny things with my job as a throwing, because it's okay for me. But if you're laughing at me because, you just want to ridicule me to get more views or so, then it's for me like ugly criticism. And so I try to brush it off. So I always give advice to people that slice up the criticism, because
when I look at criticism in a couple of ways. I mean, when I look at the most critical people in football in general, so if I look at somebody like, for example, Roy Keane, or, Roy Keane, he went after Jurgen Klopp and he went after Liverpool and said they're bad champions, you know what I mean? Like their whole attitude, you know what I mean? Things like that. But then also my biggest thing is when people are critical, but they're biased. And I always say to people, don't be biased, be kind of impartial, because then you can be more objective, I think. And people will respect, like there's a lot of pundits I listen to, and I think, you know what I mean? If they could be a bit more objective, I would listen to what they have to say. But because they're not being objective, they're making it very hard for me to really see where they're coming from. So yeah, I'm totally with you there, man. There's a way to be objective, and when you're critiquing someone, do you know what I mean, or what your opinion is. But so see, whenever obviously when you come in 2018, Thomas, right? What was it like, kind of moving and settling into what would have been like a whole new world? So going into Liverpool, give us a picture of what that experience was like for you, in coming in, and the phone call, how the phone call happened, and bring us through that story and how that kind of all unfolded.
Yeah, I was on a summer trip with my family in early July 2018, and I just looked at my phone before we went into that chocolate shop we had to visit, and there was a +44 number been calling, and I just thought it was a guy from the UK who was selling me some pens or so. But I listened to the voicemail, and then it was Jurgen Klopp, and I was totally surprised, because I always dreamed about coaching the biggest clubs in the world, and also, of course, Premier League. I tried to call him back, but he didn't answer. So yeah, I thought after the visit to the chocolate shop, better go home to myself in quiet surroundings and take perhaps the most important call in my life. So I was driving the car, my wife sitting beside me, the kids in the back, and then suddenly the phone rang, and it was my wife, and she picked the phone up and she said, "It's Jurgen." And then I just took the car and drove directly into a grass field, and I picked the phone up, and it was Jurgen Klopp, and he said, "We had a great season in the 17-18 season, 4th place in the Premier League and Champions League final, where we lost to Real Madrid, but we were really bad at the throw-in." So he invited me to Melwood, Liverpool's training camp, and already the week after, and it should only been a meeting, but Jurgen Klopp was so convinced after the meeting that I had the chance to coach 21 Premier League players. All the players weren't injured or at vacation after the World Cup, and it was really fantastic, and actually, I just thought it was great, and the players were great, and I wasn't really, nervous. Of course, it was special. It was first like a couple of weeks after when I signed a contract with Liverpool. I was together with them in Evian in France. And then suddenly, like the first day, I realized, hey, what are you into? And I'll say I had a little, like you say in Denmark, butterflies in my stomach there. But after a few days, they went away. So right now, when I'm coming to, no matter if it's Liverpool or any other countries clubs around the world, it's a little bit like you're going to work with some colleagues, and so the players are, I think, really motivated, supportive, but it's also about knowing your own worth. If you think, hey, it's little me who's coming to this big club, and hey, what should I do? So you have to trust yourself. It's not, of course, you don't have to be arrogant. You have to be friendly, open-minded, and everything. But again, to be able to like get great results for big clubs, you have to trust yourself too. So I just try to give everything I have, listen so much I can, and then give so much value as possible. So for me, it's been it's fantastic to be a part of all these clubs.
And so whenever you look at it, what teams? So if you're looking at teams across Europe, so you look at like the steps. You initially get a call. But what is it like in terms of when people are kind of recommending you? What's the steps that we're obviously taking for that to happen? So with Ajax, and how did that kind of come about? And Borussia Mönchengladbach and Gent, take us through kind of that type of journey for you, because obviously you're spreading your CV in terms of being the best throw-in coach in the world.
Yeah, I'll just say, just to I haven't been in Borussia Mönchengladbach, but I have been in RB Leipzig. So, but I know that it's been standing in some papers, but it doesn't really matter. It's okay. But what I normally do is when a club is interested in hiring me, of course, sometimes we just sign a contract right away, but often I'll go like into an inspirational visit. If it's here in Europe, it's normally a 2-day training day inspirational visit where I'm coaching like 45, 60 minutes per session. And then I'm learning the players and the coaches a lot of, basic throw-in things. And then most of the time I'm signing a new contract. So, and that's often for like 3 to 5 visits for the whole season. And some clubs I'm analyzing all the games on video, like I've been doing 3 seasons with Liverpool here, but also, for example, with Ajax, and some clubs I'm only doing a little bit of video analysis depending on the size of the contract. And yes, in inspirational visit I'm starting with the basic things, and then if I'm continue to work with the clubs, I'm like going on into like different zones and more complex stuff like this. So it's normally a 2-day inspirational visit in Europe because before I sign a big contract. And if I'm outside Europe, I normally have a 3 or 4-day inspirational visit. But it's more about longer traveling time, a longer stay, and so that's the way it works. And yeah, and I really like it because a lot of people have been asking me, wouldn't it be cool to like be full time in just in one club? And of course, I wouldn't say that. I will never do that. But I love the freelance work with all the traveling, experiencing different cultures and clubs in different countries, different environments, and so on and so on. So I love my life.
And so, if you're looking at, besides Liverpool, Thomas, what coaching experiences and clubs, from an experience perspective, have kind of been the most unique experiences? If you were to kind of go from the start to like now, what ones have stood out that really you thought that really resonated with you? How you were treated by them, how they interacted with you, and just overall, what would you say that would be?
First of all, I'll say it's a very long list I have to tell about, because I'm getting inspired of a lot of things also on a daily basis. And I think that's one of my strengths, is that to find the good things and getting ideas from many different persons and things. So if I have to take a really fast recap, of course, the first club in Denmark, Viborg FF Superliga, experience to coach players in throw-ins first time was, of course, really special. The many years in FC Mitdjylland, great wrestles, 3 Danish championships. Of course, Liverpool FC, not only with the wrestles in the club here, winning Champions League, Premier League, World Championship for clubs, but also the open-mindedness in the club also. But also of course, like Ajax, a whole lot of environment. It's another club than Liverpool, also really based on the talent department. So there, like in Liverpool, I didn't only coach the Eerste Division team, the first team, but also young Ajax, the young second team, U19, U16. But all in all, I just take like, take things from the head coaches, the managers, the assistant coaches, the people in the club. And for example, I've been working with a guy called Jes Torup, in FC Midtjylland. He was also the head coach in Gent in Belgium. He is now in FC Copenhagen, perhaps one of the biggest clubs in Denmark. So working with a manager in several teams, that's also fantastic because you're getting like a deeper connection with people that way. So I have so many different people and clubs I really appreciate.
Yeah, and I think it's important when you go in there, and I think that's you've kind of outlined kind of why you feel that way, because I think it's important when you go there you do feel a connection with the people, because it wouldn't be very fulfilling if you go there and they're just rude and obnoxious and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You're just like thinking, oh no, I got better things to do, you know what I mean, than to be not treated well, So I know you obviously are saying Liverpool being obviously pulling off the road and stuff. What would you say are your proudest achievements at these clubs? What would you say are the proudest achievements that you've been a part of?
Oh yeah, of course it's Liverpool FC. The 2 seasons with the Champions League win, Premier League win, World Club Championship, as I mentioned before. That's my biggest achievement. I think apart from all the injuries this season, I think we would have been having a fantastic season this season too. But it's difficult with 6, 8, 9, 10 injuries in time.
It is, yeah, it's very difficult.
So it's, but I think that the success with Liverpool FC has been the biggest for me, not only with the titles, but also with the throw-in improvement. And probably, even though I'm proud of what I've achieved in Denmark, it's the achievement with Liverpool FC, who are like opening up the whole world for me. So that's the thing I'm most proud of, if you're looking at the titles and achievement itself. Yeah,
and it's great when you have those true believers, you know what I mean? Jurgen is a true believer in what you do, and I think that speaks volumes for his character, as a human being. And I mean, so it was just being said, so under your coach and Andy Robertson, the Liverpool left back, he improved his throw-in area by 500 square meters. Just explain to our audience, Thomas, exactly what this means, just to kind of clarify that. Yeah,
I'll say first of all, when I'm improving the players' throwing area, I'm working with the players' throwing technique. So the longer throw you have, the more dangerous it can be if you want to use it as a set-piece weapon in front of the opponent's goal. We're not really using that in Liverpool FC. In most of my clubs, we're not using it so much. Like in Ajax, we didn't take any long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal. But it's really important that the players are improving their throw-in, because the longer throw-in you have, the greater throw-in area you have. Like if you draw a half circle on the pitch. And even though Andy Robertson improved 7 meters, it's not like the furthest. Typical, the players are improving 5 to 15 meters. I had a guy, Andreas Paulsen from FC Midtjylland. He improved from 24.25 meters to 37.90 meters. Wow. So almost 40 meters, and it's only technical improvement with the throw-in. But if we're going back to Andy Robertson, Robo, the way I measure the throwing area is like you calculate like a half circle. That's like radius times radius, then times pi, 3.14159, and then you divide it with 2 because you only have to have a half circle. Then you have the square meters of the half circle. And before I came to Liverpool, Andy Robertson could only throw 19 meters. And even though he never will be one of the best in the world to throw really far, Liverpool FC had a really big challenge, because with only 19 meters, you can't throw to really many teammates. And if you can't throw very far, it's much easier for the opponents to put on pressure on you. So it was really a challenge for Liverpool. And now, improving to 27 meters, and Robertson have now increased his throwing area with more than 500 square meters, and it gives him a lot of more, options. And then you also have to put on top of that, he's very precise with his throw-ins, and Robertson knows when to throw fast, but also when to have patience. He's really good at seeing space, being creative. Also, because we are working a lot with space creation. So all in all, Andy Robertson is, I think, one of the 2 best throw-in takers in the world, even though he's doesn't have the world longest.
That's another thing. Why do you? So whenever you look at, so obviously you're saying one of these players, he was at FC Mitdjylland. He was the one that had the best, in terms of one that you've seen. Why do you think more clubs are looking to you as a way to improve? What do you think is changing people's perspective and kind of thought process to hiring you, Thomas? What would you say is behind that thinking? Do you think they're looking at the success at Liverpool and what Liverpool have achieved?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Look at the success. So if you want to have players who can make a long throw-in, so you have an extra set-piece weapon, and you have to remember there are much more opportunities for long throw-ins than free kicks and corners normally. So it's an extra set-piece weapon, and not many players can throw world-class length with the right flatness. So if you want to use that as a set-piece weapon, you can just call me. And right now it's a little bit like, and it's you don't know if you have a long thrower, you have one. If you don't have one, you don't have one. But you can actually improve them with the right knowledge. So that's one of the reasons why they call me. And it's the same with the throw-in possession all around the pitch, but also creating chances, scoring goals all around the pitch from throw-ins. People want to do that. People want to have the same success as Liverpool. They just don't know what to do it. Sometimes the assistant coaches, who are often doing the set pieces, they try to do something themselves. They're like they're taking making a playbook with 3 options and so. But if you take that approach, the opponents are reading that playbook really fast. So, and of course, then clubs are getting frustrated. And sometimes it's easier for the clubs to call me, because I don't need to coach the players every day. Even with Liverpool, the first 2 seasons, I had 5 visits to Liverpool. So if you're looking at the time spent, it was really little time, but the effect of my coaching was gigantic. So of course, when people hear about that, they'll say, "Hey, we want to have the same improvement." So I think it comes down to my results in other clubs, and then that the coaches don't have the knowledge to do it themselves. So yeah, it's actually pretty simple.
Yeah, and so another thing I did want to hit back on there, I know we were speaking about Stevie Nicol and we're speaking about people that have been very critical, right? So the negative feedback that Stevie Nicol gave, right? So he's obviously, and I know you had said, but Stevie Nicol, he doesn't have any knowledge around the topic. So it's been a bit of a war of words. So obviously it's been a bit of a, take us through kind of what's actually happened since then. So since he went on that, and obviously you went on to get more projects and more jobs because of that. So people think, well, if he's making a big deal about this with this boy Thomas, man, he's really cranking it. Clubs want to hire him. You know what I mean? What would you kind of say? What way did that kind of, once he did that big rant on I think it was 8 minutes, I think. It was quite long.
Yeah, I don't think that I necessarily got more jobs, but at least he gave me a lot of views all around. Also because there was like his colleague, I think he's called Julian or Julians or something like that, a French guy who like had the
Oh, do you mean Frank LeBeouf?
no
Oh,
no
sorry, Julian, Julian, yeah. I think, I'm trying to think of his name,
yeah
Laurence.
yeah
Julian Laurence, I think him
yeah,
is,
but he
yeah.
had the opposite opinion. So he was like a really good
Right.
advocate for me and my coaching. So but for me it was all right. I don't need to have the approval from every person in the world that my coaching is great. Um, it's enough for me to have other people. So if I had to choose between guys like Jurgen Klopp, Erik ten Hag, and other big managers, coaches like this to advocate for me, and then some pundits.
Right.
I, I don't
Because
think.
it's more his opinion that matters,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're working with him. So and I agree with you. It's like you have to like funnel things, don't you, in terms of how you take it on board. So when you think of people who would call, say for example, they'd say, okay, Thomas, he's very overrated. So do you think the same people who criticize you are the ones who think stats and data? And this one of the things I find, people that are very critical are kind of old school people. I think people that have not moved with the times. That's one of the things I've found myself. Because I think the world we live in, I think big data is the future. That's my personal opinion. I think companies will hire predictability analysis. They'll go into things like the deep web because they want to understand what what's going to come up, what threats are they going to face. But do you think the people who criticize you, but it doesn't tell the full story, though? Would you agree with that when they're having these opinions?
Yeah, again, like I touched a little bit earlier, it's okay for me that people have different opinions. I'll say that I haven't heard one single innovative person, forward-thinking person who are into data criticizing me. Of course, you can have different opinions. You can also say, "Oh, we can do a little bit of that instead," and that's fine for me because I'm not a guru. I don't have 100% the right answer, so I'm also trying to get inspired by others. But I haven't heard about a single person who like into the sport, who gets into data, who gets deep into all the numbers, and so criticizing me in a negative way. So here I only have support. So yeah, on that way you can say that it's like more people who are not really in touch of what's happening at the moment, and so yeah, but it's fine for me. It doesn't really bother me.
One of the other things is said by this. Is there anything that these guys have said that was negative that is actually this crowd has said, the negative crowd I would call them, have said that actually is going to help? That's going to help you to improve in any way, or how you kind of perceive what they've said that's negative, that you feel was not constructive? Did you feel, okay, that's gonna push me to make it more important, to show that, listen, throwing coaching is very crucial for a club that really wants to go forward?
No, not at all. It doesn't. It in that way it doesn't give me any motivation. I don't need to show anyone anything because I have my numbers, I have my experience, I know how it can help people. So my self-worth is not connected to proving myself right. Of course, if it was 95% of all people who knew about football who was negative, then perhaps it'd be a different thing. But I'll say that first of all, it's been a very few pundits who have been criticizing me, and if you're then looking at social media, it's primarily been rival fans who have been criticizing me. And again, as I touched a little earlier, they're like starting to cheering a little bit instead now because they want the same change for for their team.
And what rival fans have been giving you the most grief, Thomas? Which rival fans have been giving you grief? Man United fans by chance?
No, no. I don't think who it is. Think about who it is. Perhaps sometimes Everton fans, sometimes it's United fans, sometimes it's. But for me, it doesn't really matter because I'm not so attached to my clubs on an emotional way that it like affects me. Also because I know I can be in another club, in a rival club the next season. So for me,
literally, yeah, exactly, right.
I consider myself
absolutely.
Consider myself as a servant for football, not for specific clubs. Of course, I'm proud.
So if you,
yeah.
So if Jurgen has you, say for example, we're looking at the future here, Thomas, and imagine you go to Everton. Everton are going to offer you a contract, right, for I don't know, for 6 visits, right, and then Jurgen says, right, Thomas, you got to tell me what Everton are doing. You know what I mean? So next time we play them, we know how to tell them. You can't really tell them what either of them are doing and things like that. So I suppose you're quite careful from like that perspective and just respecting each club and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not giving knowledge away.
There you go.
That's the way it is, and that's the same way.
Yeah, that is it. And 100. I mean, so one of the things I want to hit on. So I believe as well, Thomas. So you want to go for. You would like to go and work with the national team, is that right? You'd like to work with the Danish national team?
Oh yeah, any national team. It doesn't matter who it is, but only if I can get a free role and control, and so I haven't been coaching a national team yet. But if it's the Danish national team or another national team, it could be the English national team. It could, doesn't really matter. It could be a great challenge for me because I haven't tried that before. So but let's see what happens.
So you that's obviously still very much a dream because that's very different to working with a club because they meet up less and things like that. So do you think do you think in a knockout tournament where they would usually play, so say for example a team's very defensive and do you think your throwing work could end up being vital to the defensive side versus in terms of going forward and goal scoring, things like that?
Yeah, I'm doing that already now. I'm working with everything you can imagine around throw-ins. Also, when the opponents have a throw-in, if you're looking at the numbers, we are in Liverpool. We also normally putting the opponents down to a really, really low possession on their throw-ins. So I'm working with everything you can imagine around throw-ins. And my job, let's say if I work for a national team, would have the same effect as for a club team. And yes, of course, there are not like together so much as a club team, but often before a big national championship like the Euros or World Cup, they're together like 3-4 weeks. So I could easily work a day or two with them, and that will improve the national teams a lot. So if there are national team listening here, just give me a call.
Oh, okay. Another thing as well, what are your goals? So in the next 12 months, what are kind of some of your personal goals as the world's best throwing coach?
I'll just say that we have been having a really special period here with travel regulations because of Corona. So I expect that we have a more normal season from the summer and then forward. So I just want to help so many clubs as possible. I don't have some specific goals there, but I expect to coach at least 8-10 clubs the next season too. So let's see what happens.
Wow, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot of work. So Thomas, for any of our followers on Continental Aspire Soccer TV, they obviously want to come and follow you, so they can follow you on LinkedIn. Also, you are going to be having a book. Tell us about some of that stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah, first of all, if people want to follow me, they can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel with a lot of drills there. Okay. But I'm writing on my book about throw-ins. If it'll be published in 1 year or 3 years, I don't know right now when. I've already been writing over 80,000 words, so pretty with it. So, at one stage, I want to inspire even more amateur and youth coaches too. And the best way to do that is through a book, because I can visit all clubs in the world. So when that's ready, then I'll make a big change in the football world. But already now I have some free drills on my homepage. You can find them on thomasgronemark.com. And these are free 4 basic drills. That's already over 4,000 coaches from all over the world who's been picking them up and been getting a lot of good feedback from them. They can use these drills already from U10 and then up to pros. I'm using them for my pro teams too. So go into thomasgronemark.com and so you can find me almost anywhere on social media and on the internet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, guys, like I say, you obviously heard from Thomas. And Thomas, I definitely appreciate this time. And also, anybody who wants to reach out to us, Continental Inspire Soccer TV, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and like I say, you can also find us over on Spotify, and like I say, you can catch it up with this latest episode. And like I said, it was great having Thomas, and hope everyone has a great day. And thank you for joining me and Thomas on Continental Aspire Soccer TV.